The following podcast contains movie spoilers and mature content, including graphic descriptions of violence. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Opening Kill, the podcast that dives deep into the chilling world of horror films. Every Thursday, we explore a different movie, from cult classics to modern masterpieces, uncovering behind-the-scenes secrets, analyzing themes, and sharing fun facts about your favorite horror films. Join us as we chat with filmmakers and fellow horror film fans to celebrate the fear in cinema. And now, the hosts of Opening Kill, Michael Doran and Brian O'Connor.
How are we feeling today, Brian?
Pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Samesies.
Good. Samesies. Just making up words each week.
That's what I do.
Welcome to episode number 10. We've made it to 10, Michael.
Double digits.
Loving
all right.
that. Today's episode this week, The Wolfman from 2010.
Yeah, we got a new Wolfman movie. May as well talk about this little ditty.
I think so.
It's a good one, too.
Want to welcome all of our new listeners from around the country and around the globe. And if you're just joining us for the very first time, you just found us. We basically talk about horror films for an hour or whatever.
Yeah.
All
and
that
if you
good
like
stuff.
that, subscribe.
That's right. We want to see you subscribe. So I saw a very cool movie here recently I want to tell you about. It is a movie called The Wind from 2018. It stars Caitlin Gerard. She was in Insidious: The Last Key. And this is a supernatural thriller set on the plains in kind of the western frontier in the late 1800s.
Okay.
It's about a woman who is completely isolated in this wilderness. The wind, by the way, never stops blowing.
Okay.
And she starts to think that there is an evil presence on the land.
Does this take place in Chicago or something?
It's out on the plains in the Midwest.
The windy plains.
The windy plains. And her husband basically thinks she's not crazy, but just being overly superstitious. And this newlywed couple arrives on a nearby homestead, and that makes her really kind of freak out even more. And anyway, I recommend it. It was a pretty creepy film. It's called The Wind. I think you can get it on, I think it's on Shudder.
Okay. I love period piece horror.
Yeah.
Which is why I love today's movie as well. I just love that shit.
It's
so
great.
cool. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched in honor of this movie, I watched The Howling from 1981, directed by Joe Dante.
Mm-hmm.
This movie has some horny werewolves, I'll tell you that much. But it starts off kind of weird. We get like an encounter with like a serial killer and turns like, yeah, it's a very weird movie. I enjoyed it. It's got a really cool werewolf transformation scene, which is, I mean, if you don't have a good transformation scene in your werewolf movie, don't bother making it. But this one has a great one. It's weird. I dug it. I recommend it.
That was one of the very first werewolf movies that I ever saw.
Okay.
It's
the first werewolf movie I've seen that has a werewolf sex scene.
So there is that.
That wasn't on my bingo card, but I got to check it off.
It's funny, in the very first episode of our podcast back in October, I talked about the fact that I got into horror films pretty early, and I had an uncle who was really into it. And so every Saturday night we'd go over to my aunt and uncle's house and we would all sit around and watch horror films. And that was one of the first ones that we got. So it's always had a special place in my heart. So I am thrilled, Michael, that you finally got to watch The
Howling. I got to experience it. And yeah, it was a fun one.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Good deal. Grady Hendrix is one of my favorite horror authors.
Same.
And he just dropped a new novel a couple of weeks ago. It is called Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, debuted at the top of several bestsellers lists as his stuff normally does. It is set in a home for unwed mothers in 1970, right? It's about,
I don't know why that made me laugh. It does.
It's about 4 teenage girls who are sent away to have their babies in secret. And they're basically trapped in a maternity home in St. Augustine, Florida. They are helpless, powerless, and in despair until they discover the power of witchcraft. So
that sounds dark.
It sounds very dark.
A little bit like Hands Made a Tale or whatever.
So new book out, and you know his other stuff. I love his novels. My two favorites from him are Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires,
Yep.
and How to Sell a Haunted House. I thought were both tremendous books.
Yeah,
So-
I'm a fan of his as well, and I
Yeah.
think my two favorite is the Southern Guide
Oh,
Book
it's
Club
great.
Vampire,
Yeah.
long title, and then I love the Final Girl Support Group.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good one
that
too.
one's so much fun.
It is.
Oh my god,
It is.
That's
Yeah.
the thing about Grady Hendrick is his books are there's like genuinely creepy, chilling moments, but there's also a lot of humor.
Mhm.
Very
Oh,
fun
they're-
books.
They definitely has a sense of humor. Yeah, that
Yep.
comes through in those books.
I think he just writes characters well too. Like that's
Mhm.
always a huge strength in those books is the characters. You love them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Grady Hendrix. So
Yeah.
that's definitely on my read list. Speaking of books, my little thing is I'm reading currently a new book from Stephen Graham Jones. Talked about him a couple weeks ago on the podcast.
Love him.
Yeah, this one is I Was a Teenage Slasher. It's really fun. You're in the mind of the slasher killer this
Okay.
time around.
Okay.
And, it's kind of cool because it kind of portrays him as a victim as well. He's a victim to being a slasher killer, which isn't something you just do. It's something that happens to you, which is a very cool take on it.
Okay.
It's amazing. I can't say enough good things about Stephen Graham Jones. And
Yeah.
so far, I'm like, this is another winner. So.
If you haven't read Stephen Graham Jones, it takes a little bit of getting used to.
Yep, very interesting writing style.
He does, and it did. When I read the first one in the Angel Lake trilogy, I was kind of like, "What? Okay, I'm trying to go with him here," and I finally did. And you get used to it, and then it's great.
Yeah,
But if you're used to reading someone like Stephen King or something like that, he does take a little bit of getting used to. But once you get into it, it's fantastic stuff.
yeah. So this one, I definitely would recommend it.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on. So this week we are talking about 2010's The Wolfman and Just the Facts, directed by Joe Johnston, released on February 12th, 2010. This was shot in various locations around England, starting in March of 2008. They had a budget. This is pretty amazing. A budget of $150 million, which is why it lost money. Because
Yeah.
it only made back about 140 million, so it still showed a loss. That's a lot of money for a horror film.
Yeah, it was a huge flop.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff about this movie.
Mhm.
We'll touch on some of it, but I would recommend watching the Blu-ray of it. There's a lot of cool behind the scenes stuff because this one had a development from hell. Multiple directors, reshoots. It kept getting delayed. I think there was a total of 5 delayed release dates. Like it got 5 different release dates, and they kept not being able to make them, and so they just kept pushing it back, which helped inflate that budget a little bit as well. So yeah, this one had a tough time getting off the ground, but it was a passion project for Benicio del Toro.
And he stuck through it with
Yep.
all the director changes
Yep.
and everything else. You talk about an all-star cast. Emily Blunt, Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, everyone's
Hugo
favorite cannibal.
Weaving. Yeah, Benicio del Toro and Asa Butterfield. I mean, this is just stacked.
Yeah, it's got Hugo Weaving. It's
Yeah.
got Elrond.
Yeah.
Like, incredible stuff.
Really, yeah.
Really great cast, and it's cool. I didn't realize this until I was kind of watching this movie and doing a little bit of research.
Mhm.
Benicio del Toro is like a massive Wolfman fan.
Mhm.
Like he collects memorabilia. Like this was his passion project, and he's a producer on the film. And yeah, he stuck through it with all the changes and struggles. He was the one consistent.
If you're not familiar with the film, Benicio del Toro plays Lawrence Talbot, a troubled man. He's an actor who returns to his ancestral home in England after the mysterious death of his brother. And as he investigates, Talbot becomes cursed after being bitten by a werewolf, transforms into one himself, and during the full moon. And as his transformation escalates, Talbot struggles with his new identity, his monstrous identity, as one would.
How am I going to make my way in the world?
That's exactly it. And he also discovers some pretty dark secrets about his family's past.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, it's really kind of crazy. And with the help of a doctor and the woman that his brother loved, he's trying to stop this cycle of terror. And he's at the same time being hunted by both law enforcement and the supernatural forces that are threatening his world.
They can't just let him murder people. They can't leave him be.
No, they
Jesus.
really can't. They
just
really
have to
can't.
make his life even harder. The man's struggling.
It's a great film, and it's unfortunate that it lost money. I think had the budget been different, obviously. I mean,
it was also panned by critics, though. Like
it was,
and even like just the public hated this movie when it came out.
Yeah.
Which is just great. It has had a bit of people have started to revisit and be like, okay, it wasn't that bad. And I would say it's actually great.
Well, let's dive into it. It takes place in 1891. And the first thing we see is Lawrence Talbot's brother, Ben, the one who went missing in the woods.
Taking a stroll.
The opening kill.
Oh, yeah, it's right off the bat.
we waste no time. At 2 minutes and 19 seconds after the film starts, Ben is attacked. His death happens off screen, but we're counting it here.
Because you see the attack.
You do.
And you do see the blow that would be enough to kill him.
Yes.
Like you see the Wolfman slice his guts and then slice his face. And there's it's bloody.
Yes.
This sets you up for the style this movie's going to be. It's like, this isn't an old Universal black and white monster movie. This is the 2000s and we going to show blood.
So Lawrence returns home after hearing about what happens to his brother.
Yeah, Gwen sends him a letter being like, hey, your brother's dead.
And Gwen
is
the woman who his brother was in love with.
Right.
And that's Emily Blunt.
Yep. Yeah, we're all in love with Emily Blunt.
Oh, she's great.
Yeah. And he comes back and he rolls up to the old family home. And this is where we get to meet Sir John Talbot, played by the one and only Sir Anthony Hopkins. And interesting
they're estranged
thing.
in this.
Oh,
yeah, they are estranged.
There's
in this.
some strong Lord of the Rings, Faramir's dad, Denethor. There's that vibe where you can tell this guy hates his kids, doesn't really just a douchey dad. I don't like him at all. But
tell me how you really feel, Michael.
I think he sucks, Brian. But we get to meet him, and he just strolls down the stairs once Lawrence is in the house, being like, oh, well, the prodigal son returns. And he's just just doesn't care. Doesn't greet him with love at all. You can just feel the disdain off of him.
What does he say to him? He goes, I was wondering what you looked like. Yeah. I think that's what he says to him.
Oh, yeah, because guess what this guy did? He locked him in an insane asylum as a kid. We'll get to why in a little bit, but not a good, loving father at all.
Not at all.
And the way he just breaks, he's like, oh, so you're here because your brother's missing. Turns out he's actually dead, and his body's down at the butcher shop. He's just so casual about it.
Yeah,
which a lot of people hate Anthony's performance in this movie.
Oh,
even the director.
Really,
the director had some stuff to say because when they showed the production company the cut, they're like, what's he doing? And he's like, I think it'll work in the end. Once we cut everything together, it's gonna work. And in one of the special features, he's just like, yeah, I don't really know what he was doing, but I think it works. It's very dismissive. It's very callous, which is what the character is. So I don't see why everyone had a problem with it. I kind of like it. You kind of seem to like it as well.
I did like it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it worked.
I didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah,
So-
Lawrence goes to see the body at the local slaughterhouse where they're just keeping him on ice.
Yeah, he's literally surrounded by blocks of ice.
Yeah. And you get to see the body now. And it's going to be a closed casket funeral.
Yeah.
He doesn't look good. He kind of looks undead.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's kind of weird.
It's a very strange. Yeah, I remember this scene where he pulls the sheet back to see him, and he jumps back,
he
and I even
clutches his
jumped
own
back.
pearls. He's like, oh,
Yeah, I know.
brother.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. That the effects on that body were pretty damn good.
It looked pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the butcher starts giving Lawrence Ben's personal effects.
Yeah, would you want to buy meat from this butcher knowing that this undead thing is sitting right there next to the
pig carcass,
products? You
yeah.
know, I mean, no, I don't think so.
I love that they kept him at the slaughterhouse.
Oh, I do too.
So weird. Guess that's how they did it back in 1891.
Apparently.
But yeah, so he's given Ben's effects to Lawrence, and later we cut to the local tavern where Lawrence is there drinking his troubles away, and he kind of overhears the locals debating about what's going on. They're like, I think that it's the band of gypsies, and they have this little dancing bear that I think is who attacked him. And then this other guy's just like, oh, hell no, it's a werewolf.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of fun seeing all like the theories that are the gossip that is spreading through the town. So then we get this like little flashback, which is kind of cool. Honestly, it's like we get to see like Lawrence as a kid, and you get to see him interact a little bit with his mom. And we then see what happened to his mother, or at least part of the story. We see him stumble upon his mom's body in the garden, and we see her throat is slashed, and we see a straight razor in her by her hand, and the dad is then holding the body.
Right.
So, and that is why he ends up sending Lawrence to the mental institution to get over the death of his mom, instead of, being a support system and being like, it's going to be okay, son. He just ships him off.
Right. So that would be kill number 2, even though linear wise, it's not,
Right.
it's a flashback.
But we see it.
We see it. So that is kill number 2. That is the mother.
Yeah. And one of the things that belonged to Ben was this medallion that had been purchased from the gypsies in the area. So Lawrence goes to the gypsy camp the night of the full moon. And this scene is a batshit crazy.
So this is pretty amazing. This is my favorite scene. I think maybe the lecture scene is a close second, which we'll talk about later. But this is, I think, my favorite scene where all hell breaks loose. And the interesting thing is there is a gypsy in this scene who whistles right before the attack. Turns out that is Mr. Rick Baker, legendary special effects makeup. Oh my God, yeah. Who did makeup on this film, has a cameo. And what's interesting is he actually did American Werewolf in London.
Yep, he won an Oscar for that, the very first makeup Oscar.
And he was nominated for this film as well.
Yep.
And he also did makeup for, he was the main makeup guy for Michael Jackson's Thriller video, which was also werewolf themed.
Yes.
So he's got this whole werewolf thing
He's
going.
got it down.
In fact, Michael said, I want Rick Baker, I want that same makeup, from American Werewolf in London. I want that in the video. And so this guy is just, he's the goat.
Incredible.
He's
amazing,
incredible. But I didn't realize that was him.
Yeah.
I did not realize that was Rick Baker.
It's cool that he kind of got a little cameo. And before we get into the complete chaos, I did want to mention that the dancing bear that was theorized was maybe a part of this.
Right.
You do get to see him a little bit, and all of that animation is just recycled animation from the 2007 movie The Golden Compass.
There's
a polar bear in that movie, and so they just kind of like reskinned it. They just like, change it to a grizzly. Same animation though, so I guess they saved some money there.
Yeah, they did. Well, I don't know. Well, it didn't seem to help them any, but in the end. But yeah, that's amazing. That is amazing. So we start to get into this scene where all hell breaks loose here in the camp. The werewolf attacks, and poor Rick Baker, his character is next. He is kill number 3. This is kind of funny. He's tackled, and it happens fast.
Oh yeah,
and then eaten by the werewolf.
I'm not gonna lie to you. It reminded me of this goofy scene from the movie Freaky Friday, where Lindsay Lohan tackles Chad Michael Murray when he's trying to sing a love song to her mom. It's the same exact camera angle and everything.
Yeah.
So I just that's what I thought of, which is stupid. But
and it's pretty funny though.
Yeah, no, it's great.
It is.
And it is kind of like low-key funny in this movie too.
Yeah, for sure. Now there are a ton of kills
Yeah,
in
get your
this
kill
movie.
counting
So
glasses on.
we're going to try and keep these straight. We have all of them. I think we have them all in the right order, in the right scenes, but just be aware that there are a lot and things happen very quickly in this movie, and especially in this scene.
Oh yeah.
We've got a couple of more guys in the camp that one of them gets their back slashed. Another guy.
This one's cool. Like he falls forward and it's just like his whole back is
gone.
Yeah.
It's gone, just gone. We have a friendly fire incident with another nameless guy. We'll call him guy in camp number 2.
Dumbass guy in camp number 2.
Exactly. And then it just keeps kind of going. We have another character who is grabbed by the werewolf. That's kill number 6. Kill number 7. We have I think we're still in the camp at this point.
No, we are. I think the next one is just the body.
The body in the wagon.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, but then this is the best kill in the movie, I think, is this constable who's kind of like looking at that bottle.
Constable Nye.
He's just looking at the body.
Yep.
And he kind of like reaches towards it, and the Wolfman swipes. He loses a few digits.
Yep.
And then Wolfman reaches through this guy's neck.
Yeah.
Claws come out his like mouth.
Yes.
Like, oh, that's
Yes.
a great kill.
And that is kill number 8. So Constable Nye discovers a dead body, then becomes one.
Very quickly.
Very quickly. A couple more here. We have another body that's just there.
Yeah.
And then another one. So there's 2 of those, and now we're up to kill. We're like not very far into this, and we're 10 kills in now.
Hell yeah, we are.
This is fantastic.
This is a bloody one.
I'm just trying to remember where all of these things are.
So yeah, like so what happens next? I think that's it for here.
Okay.
I think we can adjust if it's not true, but Lawrence sees because Lawrence is kind of trying to save a few people. He ends up saving a woman and her daughter, and he's just trying to do his best to control some chaos.
Right.
And he sees a young boy run off, and so he takes off after the boy to try to save him.
Yeah.
And the boy leads him to this like Stonehenge looking area where it's super foggy, it's creepy, and you do see the Wolfman has followed Lawrence and the boy out to the Stonehenge location. And we do get the Wolfman then jumping and attacking Lawrence and biting him. And he doesn't just bite him.
He gets him good.
He rips like pieces of his neck out. Like it is gnarly.
And one of the gypsies really says, you know what, he should be killed before he kills anybody else.
But Maliva, who is who we went to speak with about the medallion, she's just like, nope, it's not our duty to do it. So she's like sewing him back up.
And the sewing is pretty gnarly.
Oh, no, you see it. Like, it's gross.
It's like she's using shoelaces or something. It's not like...
Probably it's not like shoelaces and like a fishing hook or something.
Yeah, that's about what it looks like. I mean, it's pretty gnarly.
And it's bloody and like, but she's basically being like, you know what? It's not our duty to do this. Whatever happens, happens. I'm like, you're kind of being a dick.
Yeah.
You should probably kill this dude. Yeah. You'd be saving some lives.
Exactly.
But she doesn't. Nope. She just sews him up and then they like FedEx him back home. Like he just shows up on this cart and like the dad comes out like, oh, he doesn't seem very
Put
worried.
him in the back.
Yeah, just throw him in the house, I guess. Damn it.
So we are 10 kills in. Yeah, it's pretty bloodthirsty so far.
Yeah, so then Lawrence is back at the Talbot Hall. And Gwen is there as well, and she's kind of helping nurse him back to health. And during his recovery, he has a couple of like nightmares. And I'm gonna be honest with you, Brian. When I first saw this movie in theaters, this nightmare legitimately scared me and gave me actual nightmares too. Because he's in bed, and like he's looking at the base of his bed, and this like werewolf like Gollum looking creature.
I thought it was like, Gollum. It looked like Gollum.
Yeah, he like creeps up over the edge, and just that like image, like it's so creepy to me. And just like it when I was after I saw it, I would like be looking at the base of my bed and just like like legitimately. So I do have to say like one of the few horror movies that gave me nightmares is randomly this one. Just that scene, it got to me, man. And so and then flashes forward to like just like maybe like a couple weeks later, and he's completely healed. Like he has a little bit of a scar, but like homie is fine.
And the doctor is stunned because he has him hold out his arm, and he's able to hold it there, and he's strong. And the doctor's like, I never thought you'd use that arm again. And
because he basically
ripped it out almost,
basically down to the socket.
Yeah, exactly.
We meet the John, who is Anthony Hopkins, his faithful manservant Singh. He's showing Lawrence the silver bullets, and he's kind of implying that there is something monstrous in the house of Blackmore. And that is where we finally meet Inspector Alberline, played masterfully by Hugo Weaving. And Inspector Alberline was based off of a real guy, actually. The man who investigated the Jack the Ripper murders back in 1888. The real name is Frederick Alberline. He was a Scottish Yard inspector.
Okay.
So it's kind of random, fun little tidbit there. So we get him, and he's suspecting Lawrence because Lawrence does have the history of mental issues, mental health issues with being institutionalized. And another reason, because he is an actor and he knows how to portray mentally ill people expertly. He was in like Hamlet and Macbeth. And so Lawrence kind of is getting a little bit freaked out. He's like, I guess I'm in part of this murder investigation that I have no part of. And he ends up sending Gwen away because he's like, shit's going to be bad. Just get on out of here.
Yeah.
And then he, one night, he is kind of just up and walking around the house, and he looks out the window and he sees John walking out to his mom, Lady Talbert's crypt. And so he follows him out there, and he finds that his father is in the catacombs underneath the crypt, and he has built like this like shrine to his dead mom. And in the shrine, there's this chair that has like restraints on it. It kind of looks a little bit kinky, honestly. Like if that was my dad's chair, I'd be like, "Oh God, Dad, what are we doing here?
La 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 la. Don't need to see or hear this."
Yeah, like ugh. And this is where John kind of tells Lawrence weirdly that he's been dead for years, and Lawrence kind of like, "The hell do you mean by that? Like I see you, you're right here."
Right.
And then he kind of locks Lawrence out of the room, and he does this cool little moment where Hopkins leans like back into the dark, and his eyes are like twinkling yellow.
Oh, isn't that? It's cool.
And it's should mention it's a full moon,
of course,
that night,
of course.
And so then Lawrence is like, kicked out of the room, like I said, and now Lawrence, because it is the full moon, he starts transforming for the first time, and I love how they kept a lot of it to the shadows for this first transformation,
right?
But you can tell how painful it is. Yeah. Because you see like his hands, the bones like elongating, and it just looks so agonizing.
It really does. I kind of was like squirming a little. It was like, oh wow,
there's like little shots where he's like spitting out his teeth, and it's just like bloody, and it's just like, it's gross. But I love that. It needs to, I feel like a werewolf transformation would be painful, so it needs to look painful.
It does.
And they definitely nailed that here. So now he is fully the Wolfman, and he is going to go on a little rampage in the woods.
Little bit.
So, he gets I'll let you do the counting of these townsfolk, but before we get there, they are part of the inspector's team, and so they've set up traps to try to capture the Wolfman.
Foolishly,
and things don't go well for them.
No,
so
sure
let's start counting some kills.
So I think we have Johnny, who is next. He's disemboweled. That's kill number 11. We have McQueen, who is disemboweled and loses an arm. Also, his arm is removed.
For good measure.
That is kill 12.
Doesn't he? So they fall in a pit.
Yeah,
and I think doesn't he throw the arm out of the pit?
He does,
and it like flops in front of him.
Yeah. We have another guy here who's the victim of some friendly fire as well. And I can't remember how many more now. Again, there's so many here.
I think we have one more where
is he slammed into the wall?
Oh, okay. No, I guess we have more than
one.
Well,
maybe that. Okay, yeah.
So now, what are we at right now with?
Right
kills?
now we're up to 13.
Okay,
because with the friendly fire one, it's 13.
Okay, because it's very rapid.
Yes.
That these deaths are happening when they happen. So I know we do have one where this guy kind of gets away and he's running away, and he gets trapped in like a swamp or something.
Right.
And he tries actually to shoot himself.
Yeah, and it doesn't work. It doesn't go off.
It just clicks.
Yeah,
and he's like, "Fuck." And so Lawrence is like, "Well, I'll help you out," and he just swipes his head clean off of the body.
Yep. That is, that's, so that's, I think that's Colonel Montford, who's decapitated.
Who was a random character in the OG.
Right.
So
that's actually kill 15.
15, all right.
So the decapitation is kill number 15. Yeah.
All right. So I think that's it for the night.
I think so.
Because, so now we cut to the next day, and the douchebag dad finds Lawrence passed out and bloody in the yard.
Yep.
But he had, he called the cops on poor Lawrence. So
right.
Alberline and the local police show up to poor, dazed, bloody human Lawrence, and he's getting arrested.
Yeah.
So he's arrested and sent back to that same asylum that he went to as a kid in London.
Fun.
Yeah.
Fun.
Good for, poor Lawrence, dude. This guy's going through it. So now he's locked up, and this is where we meet the Dr. Honegger.
Yeah.
Who's played by Anthony Sher, and he plays this guy well. Like you can tell it's like mad scientist energy for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, So it's good to see you again, Lawrence. We've got some new ways of making people forget stuff, and it's like we have so many fun new torture devices, basically.
Yeah,
And
that's what this is.
This
really
looks miserable. So they have him kind of chained to a chair.
Yeah.
That's then on this little platform that like goes backwards, and behind him is this giant pool of ice water.
And they dip him into this, and when they bring him back out, he's got like these huge chunks of ice,
Just on
like
him.
giant ice cubes on him, and
he's
I'm
like
just like
yelling
Yeah.
in this inhuman screams.
This made me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Just the screaming and the torture here.
Yeah,
I was
Benicio
like,
del
oh.
Toro puts on an acting clinic here because
does.
you're just like, this guy is. It's like a weird like waterboarding technique that's like
Very
with
much.
some ice water. No, it looks absolutely miserable. And we also have some. It's kind of like intercut with a couple of other therapies that he's going through at the moment. There's some like electrotherapy as well. And so yeah, it's just kind of this chaotic scene of like cuts and everything. It's ugly.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate.
Oh darn! What a shitty day
that's-
Lawrence is happening.
One way to put it. It's
That's it.
unfortunate.
So it mercifully ends though, and we get a nice little scene of John visiting Lawrence to explain what the hell's going on here. And he kind of he admits to Lawrence that he is a werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
So Lawrence's dad is the werewolf that attacked him.
Right.
And he kind of gives you a little backstory. He's like, many years ago, I was hunting in India because there was this local story about a predator that lived in a remote cave. And that predator was a kind of like I think this is the golem looking werewolf that is in his nightmare.
Yeah.
And it was this young boy who just lived in the cave, and he ends up biting Lawrence's dad, and boom, now he's got werewolf fever.
Werewolf fever.
So yeah, Lawrence then realizes, because now the reason he sent him to the mental institution was to rewire his brain to forget what he actually saw that night. Because what he actually saw was his dad as a werewolf having slit the mom's throat.
Mhm.
So then he's remembering, he's like, oh, you son of a bitch. You killed mom. And I do love Hopkins' delivery here. He's just kind of like, I suppose I did.
Very nonchalant.
Yeah.
Like, no big deal.
You're like, yeah, I guess I did do that. I killed my wife. And then Lawrence just like gets into it. He's yelling. He's like, you should kill yourself.
Yeah.
Which then Hopkins is like, well, I'm not going to do that. You can do that if you want, though. And he throws the straight razor at him.
Yeah.
Which is just, what a douche, dude.
Yeah, he is.
I've said it before, but I hate his character here. And then, yeah, he leaves the hospital, and he's just playing this little harmonica as he's leaving. John's left the asylum, and then we cut to the doctor, Dr. Honegger, who's taking Lawrence to an observation room to present him to his colleagues. And he's like, I'm going to present you in this room directly to the full moon to show you that you're not actually a werewolf. This is all in your head, you silly, silly boy.
You silly, silly boy.
And needless to say, it wasn't in Lawrence's head. And Lawrence is trying to tell him, he's like, I'm going to kill every single one of you. And he ends up turning while the doctor is looking away.
I was going to say his back is to him, and everybody else is watching this transformation going,
doctor,
yeah, doctor,
turn around.
doctor, which he finally does.
He finally does.
But
It's
it's too late at this
though.
point. Yeah.
But yeah, this is a really cool, this transformation scene. While I would have preferred it to be 100% practical effects, it's not bad.
No, it's
for
not.
the CG. And the reason it was CG is because the director signed on literally 3 weeks before filming, and he wasn't comfortable approving the practical effects for it because he didn't know how long that would take. And so he's just like, okay, we're going to do it digitally. But I believe in you, Tom Savini. I just can't sign off on it. So that's why it's CG.
And that's probably why this thing cost $150 million to make with all the CG in this.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine as a director coming into a project this big with 3 weeks notice.
No,
I mean, that's insane right there.
It just goes into the making of this thing was absolute chaos. So yeah, Lawrence breaks from his restraints. There's a orderly who tries to like stab him, I think with like tranquilizer or something. And yeah, Lawrence ends up biting, like, I think his stomach.
Yeah,
right
his
off.
guts are ripped
Like,
out.
He like, you see him bite, and then he lifts up, and he's like, has this giant piece of flesh just in his
Yeah.
mouth, like a doggy treat.
And there's another doctor in the room that he's killed off screen
Right.
by the werewolf. So those are kills 16 and 17. And then one of my favorite kills
It's great.
coming up right here is Dr. Henniger, who finally gets his in the end. He is thrown out the window and he lands on some fence spikes, which is fantastic.
Just some spikes through his body.
Yep.
And I just love the impact of it. As soon as he hits and you just see it go through him, and you just like, poof.
Yeah.
I think it's a killer kill.
And then it really gets nuts again. It's kind of like the gypsy camp scene.
Yeah,
where
Brian, good
things
luck
fall apart.
counting. He escapes into the streets of London.
And one of my favorite kills is coming up. Let me see if it's the next one. It is the next one. Oh my God, this is my favorite kill. And it's my favorite kill because it's so quick and clean with just a spatter of blood that comes up from the bottom of the frame. And it's when the policeman gets jumped on and crushed by the werewolf.
Yeah.
He's just standing there, and all of a sudden, the werewolf, it's like a blur. He's crushed, blood squirts up, and that's it. And it's done. And it made me laugh.
He jumps off
Jumps
the
off the
roof
roof of a building.
And you'd probably assume that was CG.
Nah, that was
100%
not.
practical.
That was practical.
Yep.
I knew that one.
Yep.
But it made me laugh just because of the silliness of it. But at the same time, it was effective.
Hell yeah.
And my favorite kill out of all of them. I mean, there's some gory ones and there's some really cool ones. For some reason, that one just grabbed me. I'm like, oh my God, that is great.
No, it's a great little kill.
Yeah.
I think mine still is that constable from the gypsy camp, but this one's probably my second, I would say.
The next one is pretty good too. It's just an ordinary Joe, ordinary citizen walking down the street, and he gets run over by the gas-powered bus. That was just like, oh my God, how fun is this?
It's a hit and run.
It was.
But then Lawrence jumps into this bus. And there's a couple rapid fire kills here.
There's 4 of them.
Okay.
There are 4 of them, so that is going to be kill 21, 22, 23, and 24 within seconds of each other.
Yeah, they're bloody too. You get a couple of cool neck slashes. And then, he disappears into the night. You do get to see him kind of settling in under a bridge and preparing to turn back into a man, which he eventually does. And he then rushes off to visit Gwen, who Gwen owns an antique shop. And he just visits her there. And this is where they kind of, I guess, start to fall in love.
A little bit.
Which I'm like, dude, first off, you're kind of a shitty brother. Like, your brother dies and you're going to start hopping on his girl immediately.
I mean, there is that, yeah.
But they do kind of have the cool little talks about, at this point, she does know he's the Wolfman because he's like, there's no cure. And she's like, no, we can figure something out. He's like, nah, we can't figure anything out. There's nothing to figure out.
Right.
And he also is then telling her about the dad situation, about how his dad's a werewolf and probably killed Ben, and just kind of how shitty life is for him. And then he does manage to escape because quickly Aberlin arrives to the antique shop and does a complete search of it, but Lawrence is nowhere to be found. He escaped, and he begins this very long trek back to Blackmore.
Oh man.
This is a cool scene too. Like, there's a lot going on, but there's it cuts to other people, but you can just see how far he's traveling, and he has to be sneaky because he's a wanted man.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this cool little scene, right before he leaves London, he walks up to this newspaper boy who's selling papers about him with his face on it, and he buys all of them. It's like, well, I can't have that getting out. Those will all be mine. But then he's off back home. But then Gwen, learning that, hey, this cute guy I like is a werewolf, starts to maybe do some research. So she's doing some research. She ends up tracking down Maliva, who was the gypsy woman. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And she's asking for her help. And Maliva's like, well, there's not really anything you can do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the saints and the gods and everything to give you strength to do what you got to do.
Basically, she says he has to die. That's the only way. There's no cure for this, and he has to die.
Yep. So she's like, so you're probably going to have to end up killing this dude. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I couldn't be more helpful.
You fell in love with the wrong werewolf.
Yeah, that's why you got to be careful.
Yeah.
Careful with your heart. And then, Aberlin is also tracking Lawrence the entire way back to Blackmore. And so he's arrived. And there's a scene where you see now he's he's thought ahead and he got himself some silver bullets.
Yes. Yeah. Unfortunately for the servant Singh, it's too late because he is found dead in Talbot Hall.
Yeah, as Lawrence arrives,
Yeah,
you
as
see him
Lawrence
like,
gets there.
I think he's like hung up.
Yeah.
Like, it's a gnarly little corpse scene.
It is.
And so, yeah, Lawrence starts to look through the house. He finds a Singh's silver bullets that he's planning on using on his papa.
Right.
And so he's just looking through the house. He does finally find John in the study playing a piano like an absolute psychopath.
There's another character who's found dead in the parlor too.
Who the hell is this guy?
That's the thing.
And why is he there?
I don't know. And he's credited as Carter. That's the name of the character. Just a random, they had an extra body they just needed to throw in. I was confused by that too.
I'm going to have to rewatch it again and see if he shows up beforehand. I
didn't remember.
I don't know why he's there.
Yeah, I don't either.
But he's there and he's dead now. So
and he is kill number 26. So
26,
there you go.
Carter.
Yep.
Hardly knew ya.
Hardly knew ya.
So yeah, then we get this cool ass scene where so he's found John and Lawrence tries to shoot him, but it turns out the silver bullets they're duds. They're not going to do him any favor here. So then John just beats the fuck out of Lawrence. And it's kind of like a gnarly little old man and young man fight. And John's holding his own. I think he's actually definitely in control during this fight. And then something extra cool happens. It's a full moon again. And they both transform into werewolves. And we get a werewolf fight.
It's pretty cool.
This is a cool fight.
You know, they go back and forth and they fight each other as werewolves. And actually, the next kill coming up was a very close second. Just because of what they did. I mean, it's a very complicated. It's like a 3-part kill.
Yeah. Before we get to I do just want to have a quick little mention of something I really liked. So as Anthony Hopkins, John, as he transforms, he does a Hulk Hogan shirt rip.
Yes, he does.
Just like, so like he's shirtless. And before we go on further, I wanted to mention, if you notice, every time Lawrence turns into the werewolf, no matter what he's wearing before, he's in the same outfit.
Yeah.
So he has a werewolf outfit that just magically appears on him, no matter what he's wearing before. I think it's kind of cool though.
Sure.
But so that's what I just wanted to quickly throw in there.
Yeah, of course. So we get to John's death scene. He finally dies, and it's like I said, it's a 3-part death. And first of all, he's slashed.
Yep.
He is basically lit on fire.
Well, he's kicked into the fireplace. And it's kind of very similar to the Simba Scar fight in Lion King.
Oh, randomly. Yeah, you're right.
Because he does like the leap at him. Yeah. And then Lawrence kicks him just like Simba kicks Scar into fire as well. Mm-hmm. So I saw that. I was like, I'm getting strong Lion King vibes here.
Yeah. Yeah. So he actually pulls himself out of the fireplace and then he's decapitated.
Yeah, but he's burnt to shit when he gets decapitated.
He is. So you get slashed, you get tossed into a fireplace, and then you come back and get decapitated, and that is the end of him.
But you see his head slide across the floor, and somehow it's human form again. So I guess if your head gets taken off your body while you're a werewolf, your head turns back into a human.
Apparently it does, because it was.
I don't know. I guess that's part of the rules.
And I know most of the rules for the werewolf stuff, and that's a new one to me. But I mean, hey.
I mean, they could have just simply been for the cool visual of it, because it's cool visual. So if that's the only reason they did it, that's fine with me.
So Sir John Talbot, death number 27 as the kill counter continues to climb.
Is this the highest one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Even the Terrifier movies that we did in the first episode, we didn't have these kind of numbers, and I don't think there's been anything else close to it at this point.
Very bloody.
Yeah.
So then, after the werewolf fight, we got Gwen showing up and trying to save Lawrence, but he doesn't know her. He's the werewolf, so he doesn't see her as anyone he cares about.
Right.
And as she shows up, Aberlin shows up as well, and he charges both of them. Aberlin, I think, is able to get a shot off at him, but he ends up biting Aberlin during the ensuing struggle. Gwen flees. And instead of finishing Aberlin off, he decides to give chase to Gwen.
Okay. And there it is right there.
He tracks Gwen over to a beautiful, lovely location, this overlooking a waterfall.
Mm-hmm.
And she's kind of begging him. She's like, remember, like, Lawrence, it's me. Like, you know me. And he kind of, for a glimpse of a second, maybe has a recollection.
It looks like he's going to, be okay. I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember you. Yeah.
But the beast wins out, and he goes to finish her off. And she ends up she shoots him with, because she was able to steal Aberlin's revolver.
Right.
As she was fleeing. So she had the silver bullet gun.
Yep.
And she's able to shoot him. And, as he's slowly dying, he turns back into human Lawrence and thanks her.
Yeah.
He's like, thank you for setting me free.
Well, yeah. I mean, you don't want to spend the rest of your life like that. Although his father embraced it.
Oh, he was all about it.
He was all about it, but not Lawrence. So
because Lawrence is a good person.
Yeah, that's
and
the difference.
He doesn't want to be murdering people every full moon.
So Lawrence is kill number 28. And that is where the kill counter stops in this movie. 28 kills. And I'm pretty sure that we got all of them in here. I mean, there were a lot. I had to go through this a few times and document this. And I checked some other sources too to see if we were on. And
I think we got it. Yeah,
I think we got it.
I'm pretty confident that you nailed it.
There were some in the middle that I think we got them in the right order. But 28 kills. That sets a new record.
Look at us doing math right.
I know, right?
Shoot.
Calculators are our friend.
I love a calculator. But basically at the end of the movie, the only thing that then happens is Gwen looks over at Alberline, who has now showed up and sees that he's got a wolf bite wound now. And it kind of then just turns back to Talbot Hall, which is burning down.
Right.
And we then hear a wolf howl,
Yeah.
which is going to be Aberlin, who is now a werewolf.
Yep, exactly. And that is how it kind of shuts down. So did you know that Danny Elfman was supposed to do the score on this film? And
so I thought he ended up actually at the end of it all doing it.
He did do it,
yeah.
But they had rewritten the script so many times that it was a whole different story. So all of the music that he came up with no longer fit the story they were telling. So they basically sent him on his way. I hope he collected his paycheck on the way out. But
I think he did because
I think
in my sources it shows that they then went to Paul Haslinger to replace him.
Yep.
But then Universal pulled the plug on that as well,
right,
and reinstated Danny Elfman's score.
Yeah.
So I think Danny Elfman did end up actually doing it. It just got pulled and put back together.
After he was who rejects Danny Elfman?
I
mean,
so
good
weird.
God, that guy, as far as horror film scores, he's amazing.
And speaking of Danny Elfman, there's another kind of little fun fact here with so Benicio del Toro.
Mm-hmm.
This is his second time playing a werewolf because his first theatrical movie role of all time was that of Duke the dog-faced boy in Pee Wee Herman's Big Top Pee Wee. Which was also scored by Danny Elfman.
Yeah, that is so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie was also made into a haunted house at Universal's Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando.
I want to go.
That?
I've never been to a Halloween Horror Nights in Universal, but it's something that's on my bucket list.
I'm sure it is. You and your wife are huge. I've never met anybody more into Disney than the two of you.
Yeah, we
and I'm sure your kids now.
They better be.
They
we'll
will
disown
be.
them.
Yeah. I
mean,
mean,
leave their asses at home.
They're not very old, so I mean, they don't even know what Disney, or do they know what Disney is?
The 2-year-old does.
Okay.
He likes Mickey, and we've kind of showed him a couple other Disney movies. We actually randomly watched Wreck-It Ralph today.
Okay.
Yeah, he kind of dug that. So yeah, we're getting there with him.
Getting there. Okay. Yeah, you can never start them too young. On Disney. So.
Never.
There you
throw that
go.
at them immediately. And something random too. I want to throw in. So Gene Simmons from Kiss and David Lee Roth and a couple other actors were all brought in to do the Wolfman's howls.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, kind of cool there.
Yeah. Amazing. What do you give it?
I gave it 5 stars.
Did you?
I did. I was kind of surprised by that, but I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. And I thought it captured just the spirit of like a classic Universal monster movie, but updated it and was a lot more bloody. I thought it was incredible.
I thought it was a good movie. I gave it an A too. I thought it was a good movie, and I, try to understand the hate that it got when it came out. I think that people are a little more kind to it now.
Yeah, they definitely are, which is cool to see that it's finally getting some respect.
Yeah, and a lot of films when they come out, they don't resonate at first.
Yeah.
And then they develop this cult following, and then even reviewers who gave it, not so nice reviews back in the day have come around and said, well, in hindsight, maybe it was better than what we said it was. And you see that with films.
Isn't it weird how like time, like just pieces of time that something just maybe isn't received well then, but in a different time frame, it is well received. So like give it 10 years and it's just, you look at things through new eyes. And for some reason, those new eyes are more receptive to something. I just think art is weird that way.
And the opposite can happen too, where a
for
film
sure.
comes out and it gets rave reviews, but it does not stand up over time. And you look at it and go, wow, that really wasn't as great. I mean, I remember seeing films as a kid and just loving them, and then seeing them as an adult going,
isn't that the worst?
wow, that's not as good as I remember it
Where you
being.
have these like such fond memories of this movie, and then you're like, oh, this is going to be great. And then it just fucking sucks.
It does.
And it rips your childhood out and stomps it
really
on the ground.
does.
It's the worst.
You still have a sentimental connection to it, but the entertainment value just isn't what it used to be. So it's pretty interesting how that happens. So 2010's The Wolfman, and great movie. Check it out. And I think no sequel ever came of it because it did lose money, but it would have been interesting to see. I mean, everybody dies in this one, so you wouldn't be bringing
all
characters
it would have
back.
been is just like, seeing Alberlin now do his Wolfman thing, which I mean, I would have seen it.
Yeah,
Hugo
definitely.
Hugo Weaving as a werewolf? Hell yeah, sign me up.
Yeah, definitely. All right, coming up next, we have your scare preview.
Welcome to Jaunty Haunts, the podcast about all things supernatural. After 30 years of keeping a secret, I'm finally ready to share with the world that I see ghosts. This podcast is all about getting spooky and connecting with others who might also sense, see, or feel things beyond the ordinary. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, let's connect, share, and maybe feel a little less crazy together.
You can listen to and binge Jaunty Haunts right now on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you podcast. Stay spooky, ghoul friends.
Scare preview time. This is the part of the podcast where Michael and I choose a film that is coming out sometime in the relatively near future that we are excited about. What is yours this week?
So mine is a movie that I have no doubt will not be good, but I am excited for nonetheless.
Okay.
So it's called Screamboat, and it comes out April of this year. And so last year, Steamboat Willie, the classic Mickey Mouse cartoon, hit public domain. And so then, of course, some horror movies are coming out of it. This is not the first, but this is the one with the biggest name attached to it. We've got David Howard Thornton.
Oh,
Art the Clown is playing Mickey Mouse. Well, not Mickey Mouse, but Steamboat Willie. And we did actually get our first picture of him. It looks... It looks like something.
It looks like something. Well, that's something.
I'm still curious. I'm kind of excited. It's going to be funny, I think, but it's not going to be good. But I love a good campy, shitty movies from time to time. And I think this is going to be just the ticket.
Well, coming to a theater near you, May 9th, it is the film adaptation of Clown in a Cornfield.
Yes.
It's a trilogy of books. If you've not read them, they are very fun. And looking forward to this. We're seeing our first images of that now, directed by Eli Craig. It stars Katie Douglas, Kevin Durand, and Will Sasso. Again, May 9th for Clown in a Cornfield. So I'm very excited about that as well.
Yeah, the books are fun. I've read the first two. I haven't gotten to the third one yet, but I will.
I'm sure you will. You read books faster than anybody I know.
It's my one talent, Brian.
You can read?
I can read. I read good.
Perfect. All right. So that wraps up episode 10.
10 episodes in. Look at us, Brian.
Double digits of opening kill. So thank you so much for listening. Coming up next week, one of my favorite films. We are going to be talking about The Woman in Black.
Little Daniel Radcliffe's first role from Harry Potter, I think.
Yeah, I think it was after he got done with the Harry Potter films. We'll be joined by Courtney from Jaunty Haunts podcast.
Hell yeah.
She's going to chime in and sit in with us and talk about that film as well.
I'm excited.
Yeah, that'll be fun to get together and talk about that. Very creepy film. Not going to lie, I enjoyed it. So we'll break that down for you as well. That is coming up next week. Don't forget to like and subscribe to us wherever you listen to us. Find us on Facebook and Instagram, and email us too.
Yep, you can email us at openingkillpod@gmail.com. If you have like a movie recommendation that you want us to cover, shoot us an email. We'll maybe get to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll definitely try to fit it in for sure.
We do get quite a few suggestions, but please let us know what you're thinking, and we'll do what we can.
Yeah, definitely subscribe, like you mentioned. That's the biggest thing you can do to help out the podcast, and because we just love doing this and we want to keep doing it. So
absolutely. All right, we will talk to you next week with The Woman in Black. Have a great week.
The Opening Kill podcast is hosted by Michael Duran and Brian O'Connor. It's produced by Mystic Cloud Productions. Thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram too. Join us next Thursday for a brand new episode.